there it is. We're hoping this works right. This was a up to the last minute activity. It's like the beginning of the school year, but we are back. It is season 7 of Sunday Night Teacher Talk, and I have are you my co-host? Are you my?
I'm like your silent co-host,
like sidekick.
Yeah, okay, that's a better word.
So instead of having my wife be this kind of silent partner that was off to the side, reading questions, going through, commenting back to people, throwing up links and stuff like that, it just seemed like it made more sense if she was just on here with me. So I'll still be answering questions and things of that nature, and I'm certain that you will chime in, but this just seemed like
it's not so weird. I was just like the voice on the side. I feel like we would get so many comments about like, who's that weird person on the side? Like, why aren't they on camera? Why don't you let them on camera? And so here I am.
We took their words into advice. So the other thing is we have this new setup, right? After 7 seasons, we started in the dining room. And now we're still in the laundry room. I'll be honest with you.
It's the other side of
what
you all see usually.
So, well, sort of. And we'll get into all of this. I'm going to do like we'll talk about it later. But, I just want to say that, like, look, 229 episops in, and we are. Sorry. It's all right. So, and I can't believe it. That's a lot of episodes to do of anything. And how far it's come. I'm just really
it's exciting,
proud of it, and I'm really thankful. There are homies that are on here that have been here since, like, I don't know if anyone's been here from the beginning, but like,
I'd be interested to know, has anybody been here since we started? Like, we used to call this what, Teacher Talk Live?
Teacher Talk Live. And I'm not saying names, but Shivy definitely took that after we shifted to Sunday Night Teacher Talk. And we had a whole conversation about this at Get Your Teach On. And so then it became Sunday Night Teacher Talk, and then it has evolved a lot over the years. But look, the whole point is this. You have that teacher that you might feel that you are called to be, that teacher that you dreamed of being. And the logic behind this is to just try and help people to reach that potential, to do what we can as a community, right? To do that together. And so that's the logic behind this. That's what we're trying to do. So look, if this is your first time here, drop a question in the chat. You will not only get an answer from one of the two of us, but from the possibilities are that you'll get many, many answers in the chat as well, because we're trying to do this as a communal activity. That we don't think that you can just teach and be all alone. Or if you are, you're not going to be able to reach that full potential of who you could be on your own. So we try and do this thing together. So drop a question in the chat. If you have an answer, this is something you can show up to and help somebody else out too, right? Both those make you feel better for Monday morning. Now, I'm pretty sure that no one's back at school yet, but I'm also pretty sure that some people are pretty close to being back to school. So, and that might give some people agita. And, that's fine. I sound like my mom right there. Right? My mom used to say that all the time. But what we want to do is, for those of you that are ready, that want to talk about it, that want to get into it, we are here for you. And, and that feels pretty good. Yeah. We are ready before Target has back to school things out.
I don't think that's true. It's been a minute since
true.
We haven't been to Target in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. At least they probably already have it out. No doubt.
Well, we're going to go check because I want to know if I'm right or not. So cool. Are you ready? You have a question?
Let's start with Miss Gonzalez is up first.
Pop it up.
She actually, it just moved. She's going back sooner than later, right? She starts the end of July. I think I remember her saying that, like PD starts. Okay. Well, let's see where did my question go?
It's up there already, dude.
I know, but I can't read the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe I can. Oh my God, love your setup. Y'all look so great.
Thank
Happy summer. It's so awesome to see you again. What's your favorite thing to do in the summer when you don't have to work?
It's changed a lot. It used to be gardening. And I'll tell you what, both of my neighbors decided that they are going to grow their own rice in 5-gallon, many 5-gallon buckets. And that, for those of you that don't know how rice is grown, as I had no idea how rice was grown until they started doing this,
wait, I just want to say the first year that they did this last summer also, and it was really actually cool because we didn't know how rice was really grown.
When my man was out there harvesting rice, we were like all standing at the window, like that, like just staring.
He has no idea that we were doing this.
No, and the reason we can't go outside is because rice grows in standing water and it breeds mosquitoes. So gardening is no longer my favorite thing to do in the summer. I think the older I think in this season, I won't say the older I get, in this season, it's hanging out with the kids. It's really doing stuff with the kids and making memories. Because a friend of mine ruined my life a few years ago, and when she told me that, so two things. One, 80% of the time you're going to spend with your parents is spent typically between birth and 18. So that means that only 20% of the time do I get after my kids are 18. If they like graduate from high school to 18, go to college and, kind of live like a normal, traditional, I don't know if I want to say that, but like an atypical sort of like existence. However, so a friend of mine goes, that means that when Brody turns 16 this summer, I will have 4 summers left with my son, or no, 2 summers left with my son, 2. So that really makes me want to focus in on my kids, get hyper vigilant about making memories, especially because my daughter doesn't remember anything. So I got to make them really, really, really good memories. So that's, I think, my number one thing in the summer.
I'm sorry, I'm busy reading. So yeah, I agree.
Thanks.
Okay, Zoe is.
That was a good sidekick moment there.
That's what I am. All right, Zoe's up next asking, I need help picking what books to read over my summer. I read pretty much anything and I read a lot. Suggestions welcome.
Gosh, I'd love to know what everyone is reading in the summer, I was going to say,
I feel like this is a really great community answer in the chat as well.
So I think, I used to read a lot of fiction in the summer just to kind of get out of my life in my head. I would say go-to books of the summer anymore are like building myself up. And that can look like anything like I know it is on everyone's shelf and it's in every single Target and every single airport, but How to Be a Badass is a great book. When I think about I just read Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guevara, maybe, who was had the number 1 restaurant in the world. And now I'm reading Living with the Monks by Jesse Itzler. I've known who he was before, but he was a speaker at Get Your Teach On and just was incredible, explosive. Like the room was explosive when he was on stage.
It was such a good
Wasn't that awesome?
It was so good.
So I'm reading his book right now too. And then I think I'd recommend Teach Your Class Off by CJ Reynolds. That's I'm hearing good things about that. It's available on Amazon now. So yeah.
All right. Next up is Steven asking, I have a question. I have moved to a new district after teaching for 6 years at my previous one. I am moving up to high school from middle school. What should I do to prepare?
So there's a lot. And so actually, Steven, I'm putting out a video this week for teachers that it might be your first job or your first year somewhere else. And we are actually, part of it is you're going to be able to email us and I'm going to send you a list of I don't know. I couldn't hit 20. I think it was because that felt overwhelming, as if 18 wasn't, but 18 things that I think you should do immediately. But I'd say 2 of those things are, 1, get your curriculum. And these are the not sexy answers either, right? So I'm about to give you these are the real answers that are going to actually save you time, energy, capacity, and save you from anxiety. 1 is to get your curriculum and make sure that you have the things you need for the first at least unit. So if there's certain textbooks, if there are, did he say was Stephen teaching?
I did
high school,
not.
middle school. So if there's certain textbooks, if there's certain novels, if there are certain materials that you need for experiments or whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that those things actually exist, because you just don't know, especially when, my school, there's so much turnover that no one can find anything that anyone had. And then you end up finding one day rummaging through stuff, which is what I do. And you're rummaging through stuff. You found the closet looking for some prop that you're going to hopefully use. And you find like a gold mine of stuff. And I remember a few years ago, remember all those Legos I brought home?
Yes.
Because the school didn't even want them. So like I brought them home, and because we were using all the regular Legos I kept, but there was like a TIE fighter set just sitting in there, a Ghostbusters mobile just sitting in there. So find the stuff that you need. And the other thing is, sorry, my neck is doing something, is connect with the people that you're potentially going to need help from later in the year. So that might be the tech person, it might be your department head, your grade level chair, other teachers that teach your subject, the person that fixes stuff in your room, the person that orders stuff for the school. You want to go and at least not necessarily make friends, because that's a tall order, but connect with people before you need people. And that's huge. You don't want to be first week of school, something's going on with your projector. You never met the tech person. You don't even know what they look like. And you need something. That's not a good look. So go and take the proactive step of introducing yourself and just having them know what your face looks like, so that if you do need something, you know them on a first name basis. You can go and get them.
I like that. I think like be friendly before you need them.
Yeah.
Right? Like sure that you're friendly. Okay. Sophia is up next asking, I left my school this year due to lack of support. I've been teaching private music lessons and about to start my master's. I want to look for a new job though. What do you look for in a school?
Sophia, I think that's a great question. But it's a personal question. I think when you think about what are you looking for in a school, it's literally sitting down, and I would dream it out. What do I want in a school? So for me, that is definitely autonomy, and autonomy with regards to not just what I'm teaching, because that doesn't really, it matters to me, but it's not a deal breaker for me. Like, so if I was given a set of books as a literature teacher that I had to read,
but not scripted lessons.
Yeah, absolutely not scripted.
That's what the autonomy that you're talking about.
So how to teach is what I want. I want to be able to take unlimited class trips, and I want those class trips to not have to involve the entire grade level, because I think that is incredibly limiting for teachers. I want to know that the staff that's there enjoys being there and teaching. And so that's going to take a feeling of like looking around the school, being a part of things. What is the vibe that you're picking up from the school, so that you know that this is a place that enjoys the work that they're doing and is really serious about the work that they're doing. I don't like having like mandatory rules in my classroom or mandatory procedures. I think that is incredibly limiting too. But look, then the reason I say that that's just for me is there are people that I've seen come to the schools that I've worked at, and autonomy scares them to death. It's too much freedom. You don't want that much freedom. You want to know, what is the bathroom procedure? What is the procedure for if there's a discipline issue in class? What is the procedure? Like, how long does my unit have to be in? What are my, how long do lessons have to be in? In what order do I need lessons to happen in my classroom every day? And that's fine. Some people really thrive off of that because it frees them up. That discipline allows them freedom in other areas. I don't. So that's what I'm looking for. But I think more than anything, and this is going to be a feeling it out too moment. I have come to believe that strong leadership is the foundation for greatness in anything. That could be in school. It could be in a job at Home Depot, right? Like, no matter where you're working. And I don't say that to belittle Home Depot. I worked there for, almost 20 years at Home Depot. Like, that was my summer gig when I started teaching and all through college. Mm-hmm. But you're looking for something that is someone that is going to lead, not manage. And there's a strong difference there. Leaders lead, managers manage. Managers make sure that the vision is being played out and that everyone is doing what they're supposed to do. Leaders take you from Pain Island to Pleasure Island. And that sounds like a weird metaphor. I understand that. But it is, that's what my mentor taught me. And, it's whatever. Darius Daniels, that's on you, buddy. So it's taking you from this place where you feel stuck you're not really sure what to do, and you can go to them and they're going to help you get to that place that you know that this is the right move. And so that's what I'm looking for. Would you mind passing me that water over there? I left. Thanks. Yep. We need to get mugs like they have like on morning shows and stuff.
Can we have matching mugs? That I'll do. CJ wants me to wear matching outfits.
I think we should wear matching outfits.
I don't think I'm down with that one, but I would do matching mugs.
I also want us to all wear matching outfits at the gym because we go to the gym with our kids. So and weird. I want to dress like what was his name? From Royal Tenenbaums. It was Ben Stiller's character with the headbands and everything. Go Google that. It's worth your time.
All right.
Hit it.
Maisha is up next asking, will you be doing a back to school boot camp?
Yes, ma'am. So here's what I'm learning. Here's my new rule for myself this year. My new rule for myself is to not tell anyone what I'm going to do until I'm going to do it, because I have a horrible habit. Are you agreeing with me?
Yes.
Tell them what my horrible habit is. And what's my horrible habit?
Like, we can get everything done in like this amount of time when it takes this amount of time. And I'm going to tell you all about it, like before we even have it ready or planned. Especially because I appreciate excellence, but she executes excellence in all things. So we were already going to have it. It was supposed to already start in like a week or something like that. It's going to be a little bit longer, but we are planning a number of things. We're planning things for the beginning of the year. There's a lot. Here's one thing. I know we've said 1,000 times, like we have so much coming, and we really do. It's all in the works. It is just him and I, and we still have kids at home, and they require different needs because of who they are, and everything takes us so long. So we're working on building the team out, getting things moving so we can like produce more faster, but it's all coming. Lots of stuff. All right. Natalie is saying, I'm stressing about going back to school in a month. First time here. I've been watching. Oh, this is not a comment. This is just comment. But thanks.
Let's talk about that though, real quick, because I'm sure a lot of people are. So first of all, Natalie, thank you very much. Look, I mean, I think the stress is real, but I say this all the time, but it's worth repeating. Anxiety feels very similar to excitement. And remembering that is powerful, because sometimes I play mind tricks with myself, right? Like I got to play mind games, or like I will just tell myself, wait, I'm not anxious about this. I'm just really excited about it. So being mindful of that, being thoughtful that like you are just excited also, and know that, look, it's going to work out. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Right? What's the worst thing that can happen? I'm really thinking about that and then answering that question. I used to tell my students, like, you're not going to catch on fire, right? Like, it'll be all right. And
but like, what's the worst fear that a teacher has? Like when you're a new teacher,
that they're going to fail. Mine was that I was going to fail.
How do you fail in a hole?
The kids are going to see through you. They're going to realize you're not that good.
I feel like they wouldn't listen to me. That would be my biggest fear.
No one will listen to you. And that is something you cannot convince someone that they will be okay with until they do it.
I think the only other time that you can convince someone that like they will listen to you, the only correlation that I have, I'm not a teacher, I'm a homeschool teacher, but like not a classroom teacher. But for me, it was parenthood. That was one of my biggest things. Like before I actually gave birth and had the kid, like I remember thinking and fearing, like, what if we're in public and they just don't listen to me? What if they like, all of those like what ifs, but it was like, what if they don't listen to me? What if they're bad? What if it's just a lot of that. But I think that you're surprised at how much kids do listen for the most part, most of them, the bulk of them.
For those that don't, and even if they didn't listen, right? Mm-hmm. It is, so like if Natalie goes into her class and it is like a disaster, right?
It's not,
it's a lot of that is happening because you're strangers. When those kids understand who you are, what you're about, and that you're about their success, and that's it. When you don't give up on them, when you keep showing up and keep trying to get better and do better, then that is the thing that you can't convince someone of that. But I'm telling you from experience that is the thing that is going to win kids over. So
I love reading comments. I love that. Like Miss Gonzalez, she has dreams where you go to school naked. Right?
Oh, every year. There's always a dream that, or like you
CJ
showed
went to
up.
school one year in his slippers.
I did in real life.
Real life.
I didn't just dream it.
Mhm.
And it was one of the most comfortable days and relaxed and awesome days I ever had. It made me want to just adopt slippers. And I'm an anti pajama pants in public person. So
All right.
hit it.
Bartimaeus?
Can I say this real quick?
Sure.
But while you're trying to figure out that name, now, for anyone like Natalie or anyone else, right? We don't talk about this very often, but we do offer mentoring. And if you go to our website, right at realrapwithreynolds.com, which is getting a remake right now, so I'm hoping all the pieces work.
It's still there.
We do offer mentoring, and so you can sign up to get private mentoring with me. And then we have other stuff coming out this summer that I'm not going to talk about because it is my new thing, but be mindful, like just being thoughtful of that too. If you're really feeling like you're in a place where you could really use it and you know that that investment in yourself is going to help you out, check it out. And that's something that might be of interest to you as well. So Bartimaeus. Yes. Good job.
Thanks. Saying upcoming first year class teacher here. I am thinking about buying lesson materials from the internet, which potentially help me. Would you recommend doing that? I feel overwhelmed preparing.
Yeah. So look, you get 0 credit for recreating the wheel. It doesn't matter where you're, like, if you can find a strong lesson. And look, I'm not on the front end. I am not just about like TPT, right? I think there's I found a lot of bad stuff on TPT. I find stuff that like is like from people that have never taught, someone who's never taught that lesson, someone who this is like really great in theory, but then you try it and you're like, dude, this sucks. But it's like, to me, it's like getting well, maybe it's not exactly HelloFresh, but like maybe a little bit. Like when we in the past used to get HelloFresh.
I think stick with your cake metaphor. It's like getting a cake and then you change it.
We go with cakes and not HelloFresh.
Yeah.
Okay. So there goes our brand deal with HelloFresh. Is that what I wanted to make? But if you buy a box cake, right? It's good, right? Anybody can make it. It's like you add 2 eggs and some oil and voila, you have a cake, right? It's like pretty hard to mess up. And I know that because I can't bake and I've made one. So, but it's what do you do with that? So what kind of icing are you choosing to put on it? What kind of sprinkles are you choosing to put on? And guess what? You don't have to make icing from scratch. They sell those situations in the aisle too. It comes in all different colors and flavors and all kinds of stuff, right? So you pick the sprinkles. You pick how far do you want to go with it? Are we now looking at tablecloths and plates and silverware and backdrops and balloons and like all of these things you can pull in? But look, if you just gave kids cake, it's good enough. You could just give some kids some plain old cake and they're going to be thrilled with it. But so you order something from the internet, and then I think it's how do you sprinkle your particular magic on this? That's going to take something from ordinary to extraordinary. And so that I encourage you to do that. Get everything off your plate that you can so that you can put as much as you can into those things that you're doing in class.
Just a quick reminder, if you're going to put a question in the chat for me to read on air, just put a Q in front of it or the word question. It just helps me
I should have said that
to note the difference between regular chit chat in there and questions for me because I have to feed through all of it.
Where does chit chat come from? John Lopez, where does chit chat come from?
Yeah, he'll answer it for you. I was going to say, look it up later.
Knows. He doesn't have to look it up. He
probably.
Knows it.
Okay, Chris Carson's asking, and this is a good one. He said, okay, so this is a good community question too, but every year we get a large amount of funds to spend in our classroom for the year. This year, $900. I don't know what to spend it on. Spend it for me. Ooh, so man, I was going to say something because you're special education, Chris, and I don't know is that just every subject, or do you do like specific?
I think Chris is all, he's like pull out and class support.
So man, I would say buy an Orcam Learn.
And that's not even because we have a brand deal.
No, and we partner with them. But as parents of a child who has reading difficulties, both of our kids had reading difficulties when they began, and Brody is diagnosed severely dyslexic. This little device that's like this big. It's just
It's over
looks
there.
like
I
a
cannot
pen.
physically get out of the seat right
Where
now,
is
and
it?
I wouldn't do it right now.
Oh, I know, but I like it.
It's tricky.
You can
This
see
is
there's going to be a new video
You
coming
can't
out.
understand how tricky this situation. Like we're in
Wait
the
till we show
cockpit
you.
right now. You can't just jump
Anyway,
out the cockpit.
It's kind of pricey, but if you can spend a $900 chunk, like, man, I would get one of those because
It's not even $900.
No, I know, but you're only going to get how much is? I don't even know how much it is. It's kind of a bit pricey.
Yeah, it's pricey, but so
it's well worth it.
And I'll say this, Chris, that doesn't just come from us. So my son was using it because he does this thing where he is reading, putting you on blast right now, Brady. He's reading, and if he gets to a word that's tough, sometimes he skips it, right? There's like a fatigue that comes in.
Or he just puts a word in that kind of looks similar, but is not really the, we're not reading it. We're just,
So with this, it creates a little arrow on there. You can point to any word. It will define it for you. It will translate words for you. So if you're reading a book and someone speaks in Spanish and you want to know what that word is, it will tell you. And so that's really great. The other thing I think, Chris, is I think the two things I've spent the most money on are either books for my students, and I let students order their own books. And that is a huge ROI because then that box comes in from Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever you got it from. Then you do an unboxing, right, where the kids are getting it. Then to give a kid a book that is brand new, that no one ever read before, that they're the first ones to crack that spine, is huge. And what I do in my classroom is, if I know a kid, so a few years ago, I'm thinking about this one student, and he finished the book, and he was so happy about it. He goes, "Reynolds, I finished this book." You go, "Oh, great, man. Is that the first time you ever finished a book?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, then that book's for you. That goes on your shelf as a trophy." And the other thing is incentives. And those can be easy incentives, right? So like, all know that I love cereal parties. And so I have cereal parties all the time in my classroom, but you can have mini cereal parties too, or snacks for kids, or giveaways, or like, hey, you're doing a great job. So here's like, whatever, silly putty or whatever kind of weird thing I'm into right now. So that is, I think that is it too, because kids are just going to be motivated by that kind of stuff. So those are the two things I think of, books and cereal, basically.
And I said, and work and learn. So
yeah,
there you go.
You can tell that says a lot about our relationship.
That's so true.
You said technology to help dyslexic children, and I said cereal with the least nutritional value. Good job.
All right. Miss L is saying, I'm starting a new job and moving house to a new town. Advice on how to stay sane and not get overwhelmed with all to do while starting strong as the teacher I want to be at this new school.
So I'll tell you this. You have to. So here's what I do. One, I really like lists. And part of the reason I like lists is because I can cross things off. I also use an online program called Trello. I'm not affiliated with them. I really like it for me. The reason I love lists, though, I know she doesn't like it, but anyway.
I like good old paper and pen.
Yeah. But for both of those, I like it because I like to just look at the crossed off things too.
Yeah.
I have a horrible habit of moving forward so quickly that I don't look back to appreciate some of the things that I've gotten to do, right? So, and I know that a neat classroom is a ready classroom. And so I don't have to have all the stuff done. It can be a work in progress as the school year goes on. This is a work in progress, right? Like there are things that we wanted to have done for today that we don't have done today. My white balance over here is a little bit off, which means like this is kind of faded. You can't see the wall over here. I'm going to tell you right now, this microphone is not bolted down because I lost the bolts because I had a different microphone stand. So now it's just propped up in here. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, you just heard that horrible scrape that it made. My computer is not working the way that I want it to. And we had 2 cameras we were going to use. Those aren't ready yet. So instead of freaking out, I have to like sit here and look at this and go, no, we did a great job. Like we really made this work.
Yeah.
And so I have to be thankful for that. So it's looking at small wins. I schedule my time very, very carefully. I have to-do lists. And then here's the other thing with the to-do list. I have to tell my wife what like, here's what I think I should get done today. And she goes, here's what you're actually going to, I go, here's what I'm going to get done today. Here's 10 to 12
I go,
things.
here's what you're
She goes,
gonna
these
do.
3 things are what you're going to do today. But that really helps me because
Yeah.
I tend to, I am one that will bite off more than they can chew and chew it no matter what, even if it breaks me. And she's like, dude, just stop being dumb and do these few things instead. And that is really beneficial to me.
Hmm.
So show up. It's more about how you're showing up and not so much about what everything is going to.
But isn't that a lot of things, right? It's how are you going to handle the stress? And if like stress is like, there's just a lot of,
you know what Myron Golden says?
Personal
A
development.
prepared speaker is better than a prepared message. Right? So think about that. When I say that I'd rather show up to school, if we go full Spinal Tap and I say I'd rather show up at school on an 11 and have a lesson plan that's a 6 than have it the reverse.
Yeah, that's
because you want to make sure that you're good to show up. And if everything's not ready, at least I am feeling.
So I think ultimately I would say, Ms. L, it's taking care of you first. Although your list is very, very long, it's making sure it's like the airplane oxygen thing, right? Take care of you so you can take care of others, and not just others, but all the things that are on your list.
Yeah, that was 2 plane metaphors we made today.
Yeah,
because I said we're like in a cockpit right now. You can't just get out of here.
That one was a weird one. Okay.
That's good.
Okay. I think your name is the Buddha J.
Before you get to Buddha J, can I say something real quick?
Sure.
If you are if while you're watching this, what we found is that it really helps the algorithm for other. What we want to do is help as many teachers as possible. That is literally one of the missions of what we're doing. If you could hit the little thing on there, it just helps boost it in the algorithm. It doesn't do anything else. It just like
we don't
shows the algorithm that people are watching this
up.
and that they like it. So if you hit that, and if you can subscribe, if you're not subscribed already, that just helps us out. So just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
Absolutely. All right. The Buddha J is asking, I think I have that right. As time passes, it feels more and more difficult to maintain a job in teaching. How can an educator maneuver through difficult legislation and structures within schools?
I think
this is such a great question.
It is a great question. And there's a little bit of this there's a personal aspect to this too, of like, who are you? What are you about? And what is the problem or the problems, right? So I think what we have to do is look at sometimes, is this something where I need to grow my practice, or is this something where I need to grow personally? So sometimes you can just, it's because you could shift your teaching, your pedagogy a little bit, and you're going to see a way bigger return on your investment, right? So I know that like when I first started teaching vocabulary, when I look back at how I taught vocabulary my first few years of teaching, it was horrible. And everyone always failed every year. I just blamed the kids because they weren't studying. And then I had to learn how to do better at that. And so my learning led to a better return in my students. I saw their growth happen, and that was huge. Then there are other times when like I get upset about stuff. I would get frustrated. I would get really angry at students. I would get really angry at classes. And not that I was lashing out, but I was just found myself becoming more angry. And you can't be fun and silly and be angry. You look like a lunatic when you do that, because I've seen teachers do it and I've been there, right? I've been that guy. Those were times when I felt like I had to grow as a human being. And so that had to be done with therapy, with spiritual direction, with any number of things with reading and personal development. So I had to become the person that could handle that stuff, because 9th graders are always going to be 9th graders, and 6th graders are always going to be 6th graders, and kids are always going to be going through puberty for the rest of time. Right. And I had to understand like that I needed to get better to be able to handle those things that were coming up. I needed to get better at handling all the madness at the beginning of the year, at handling principals and administrators that I didn't agree with, at working with people that were difficult to work with. I had to grow. Those people were never going to change. The curmudgeon teachers are just going to be curmudgeon teachers. And I hope that they change. I hope that they grow. I hope that they find happiness and
you just can't
peace.
wait for them.
Yeah, but I knew that I could do something. And so that is where that was the question I think I had to ask myself. And so look, I think one is also it's learning more about who you are. One of the things I've been very, very interested in the last few years are personality tests. There's a lot. And I'm not going to talk about this very much because I just said I'm not going to talk about stuff we're going to do, but that's something we want to help people walk through though, right?
We do. I found so much value
don't even tell them what the test is yet because I want to wait.
But I found so much value. I've never done one, and I only did the one that we love and we want to use. Anyway, I did it myself, and I learned no, I like excellence. Like when you talked about this set, I like excellence, but that's part of who I am. It's my personality. And I used to just think I was super bougie or picky or any of these things. And it's no, it's not. I just have a high level of eye for products and companies with details that are that shoot for excellence.
Yep. And I learned that now I love excellence.
Take that in.
But I also like speed. Yes. So I start off wanting excellence, and then I'm like, you know what? This is good enough. We're a good balance in that.
Kind of. Boy, it drives me nuts.
We're awesome.
I would say also in that, through difficult legislation and structures within the school, it's kind of just being okay with understanding that they're not going to change overnight. It's it's like a big ship, right? It just can't make it's not like your little car that can make a quick K-turn and you can make a U-turn real fast. It's like a giant ship trying to change things, and that takes a lot of time, and small movements even take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Small changes.
Especially in public school, it is
very difficult, and it's a long, tedious process to make those big changes. So I think if you go into it with an understanding of that, and so it helps you to get it kind of work through it, to be okay with where it's at, and shift your focus to kids.
Facts.
Because it doesn't mean don't fight for change in things, but don't lose your head over it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an idea. All right, we're gonna go with Anne because I skipped the question asking how do you do standard based? I guess it's grading. I don't know. Is that? Was that incomplete?
I need a little. Is there more than?
Yep. Grading without being totally subjective. She got another one.
Mm-hmm.
I've always done percentage based previously. That's it. And she's in 5th grade, she said.
So I think, and I do points, total points. And I have done standards. I have done percentage based. I think that those are percentage always seemed to confuse my students because it was a quiz is worth this much, but a test is worth this much. And your participation is worth this much, especially when the school has their hand in telling you how you have to divide up your points. And I know that for me, there have been years when I didn't quiz very often, right? So I gave a lot of tests. I gave a lot of assignments. I gave a lot of classwork. I gave no homework. But a ton of participation in class, and turns out participation is worth 15%. So then you have a kid take a test that's worth 35% of their grade, and they take one test and they've been crushing in class, but they didn't do well in the test. Now their grade is just tanks. So that's a tricky one. I'm curious how other people are thinking about this, because that's a hard one for me to answer off the top of my head. I'll be honest with you.
You stumped him.
You did. I got a little stumped there.
Email him.
Because I'm trying to it's because I don't typically I've tried my best to get away from that, to get away from standards. So it's what I'm trying to do is that being the case, if you are mandated to do standards based, what is the best way to do that? I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to pitch it. 1, if anyone in here has an answer, that would be great. 2, if you could throw up the Facebook thing. If y'all are not in our Facebook group, there are over 6,000 educators in there. No brands. No one's selling you anything. Real Rap with Reynolds Facebook group, Real Rap with Reynolds Teacher Talk is for educators only. And that is a great place to ask this question as well. And I'm certain
you'll get a ton of answers.
And so look, this goes back to my other point too about I don't have the answer for every single thing. And in real time, sometimes it's hard to, I'll probably think of something like 10 minutes after we're done and say, oh, I should have said this. But it is the community that builds this out. So yeah. So help me out there, Carson.
I had a question.
Pinter's probably got a good answer for that one. I don't like going on to answer. It's tricky for me.
Brina is asking, I work in a boarding school. I'm a mentor to a group of 30 boys aged 15 to 18. What kind of indoor activities could I do with them? They already do a lot of sports.
So are we, so first of all, that sounds fascinating. I wonder, where are you located that you're doing this? Like what country or state is, I think it's me, reminds me of, and I'm forgetting her name. They ran the boarding school for girls out near Hershey.
Oh yeah.
And then Dave Dunsavage ran a boarding school for boys out near Hershey also.
Oh.
So if we're talking about like quick
minute,
things,
you know, we're gonna say what I'm gonna
go ahead and say it.
Minute to win it.
Minute to win it games
They're
are
just
awesome.
so easy and fun and
you can find a million of them online.
quick,
They
very
cost
little setup.
almost nothing. You can just find stuff around your building or your dorm or whatever.
It's like ping pong balls and red Solo cups.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
There's a lot of stuff. And I use those as incentives a lot of times at the end of class. Like if we can get this done, we're going to do a minute to win it game. That is a huge draw for students. I like team building activities, but I'll tell you what, like one of the things I love to do with my students to really kind of build stuff is what grade is she? Did she say 15 to 18, especially 15 to 18? Is having, we used to call them HDRs, heavy, deep, and real conversations, where we would just sit down and talk about stuff that they were thinking about, have kids talk about something that they're interested in. And because I think kids, you know, Anismo Mojgani, the poet, would say kids are told speak when spoken to and then are never spoken to. And giving kids a safe platform to be able to express who they are, what they think, and what they feel is one of the best gifts that we can give to young people. So I think that's part of it for me.
Oh.
You all right?
My computer's dying. Why does it say it's not plugged in?
Oh, that would be horrific.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna fix that in just a second. Let me give you another question.
Because your plug's not in there, dude.
No, it is.
No, it's not. It's on the floor. It's right there.
Oh, that part. Oh, geez.
Quick, hurry.
It's not really gonna die that fast.
I did the earlier.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
That's the dangers of having a live thing.
I know, right? Brina said she works in Slovenia. Yeah. Oops.
Slovenia?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
That's awesome.
Look, I'm going to just say right now, if you need a speaker at your school in Slovenia, just have me come out. Just cover my travel. I would do it for free. That being said, look, gang, if you're looking for speakers, if your school needs someone for professional development, for keynotes, anything like that, please email us. We'd love to set something up. I have a whole bunch of things set up for this summer. I'm going to be all over the country, and I just love it. It is just like becoming, if not, is one of now my favorite things to do is work with groups of educators, like as they're getting ready in the beginning of the year, because we all know that PD can be boring. And so trying to create PD that is fun, that is like the stuff that I do in my class, that is deep, that is real, that is relevant, please email us and we can work with you to contact your administrators and give you all the stuff that you need to be able to do that. So let us know.
Absolutely. Okay, Naseem is... Especially
if you're in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Naseem is up next asking, how should I prepare as a special ed teacher for September?
I think one of the things I'm going to tell you to do is, and I've probably talked about this in videos before, but it definitely bears repeating. Finding the students that you are their teacher, especially students that have a 504 IEP, and emailing their folks, introducing yourself, who you are, what you're teaching, that sort of thing, all the stuff like, here's how you can get in contact with me, like basically a nice little menu of the ways that you're capable or able to help their child this year. So like, this is when I do things after school. This is when I do things during lunch. This is, how early I get to school, all that kind of stuff. So there's one email they can go to. They don't have to go through a thread, and then ask this singular question. What is something that you might want me to know about your child that's not going to show up in the IEP or a 504?
That is so clutch. Never has anybody asked that about our kids. And I am ready with a million tips for you on how to best serve, just give you a little insight on who my kid is that would help you level up really fast, especially in the building relationships area. Like, if you already have a little bit of insight that's not on IEPs, 504s, all that stuff,
and it puts the power in the parent's hand, and it shows, right? Like, my
parent heart would be filled just with that.
It's because it's outside the box, and it's my friend Hannah used to say that love is a verb. We can tell people we love them, we got to show them that they love them. And I think that's a real sign, a real show of love, that you're really about this and you're willing to have those bigger conversations and not just look at the intake form that parents set in, but really ask them that poignant question. And I'll tell you what, Naseem, a lot of parents aren't going to be ready for that question. They're not going to be ready for how to answer that because they've never thought they would ever get asked that before. So, but that's what I would do.
One other thing I would do if you're going into special education, I don't know what your training was with that, but I think learn about whatever disabilities that you're unfamiliar with. Just read about them. There's tons, understood.org, goes through and will tell you different disabilities. We had a lovely woman who was our son's pullout, and we said, he has dyslexia or whatever we were talking about it. And she was like, I don't know anything about dyslexia. And I was like,
wrong thing to say.
Okay, but you're his pull-out reading teacher. It blew my mind kind of. So,
and look, no fault to her, because they shouldn't have put her in that position anyway. But it is doing our best to show up for the kids for who they are now, not for who just we thought they would be or something like that. So taking those extra steps to learn about what is ED, what is dyslexia, what is dyscalculia, what is a phonological processing disorder, and just having a basic awareness, and then starting to look for, are there free resources that you can get? Is there someone in your school that understands that more deeply than you do? Is there someone that, has experienced some of this stuff before? I'll tell you what, there used to be a theater teacher at BL who had dyslexia, and we used to have great conversations, and it helped me to understand it so much more, because it wasn't just in a textbook or on a website. It was someone telling me their experience.
Especially as an adult, right? Yes. They can look back and say, no, when I was a kid,
this is what I could have used, or this is what helped me. Right. So that's huge.
Yeah. All right. Naseem is up next again. He gets them in quick.
He does. Look, he has a new profile picture too.
Oh.
Looking.
Are you sure? I thought that was the same one.
No, because I think the last one, he was he had a black jacket on. No. I pay way too much attention.
You really do. I was going to say, I don't pay attention to people's profile pictures.
I'm all up in this.
Okay, he's asking, this year was a challenge. Do you think next year will get worse in terms of challenge?
I think every year is going to be a challenge, every year of your life. But everything that you want in your life, every great and wonderful thing you want, is on the other side of hard. And so I think that regardless of whether or not it continues to be a challenge, who are we growing into in these moments? And so education is particularly difficult right now, but there are people that are still doing well. There are people that last year had the best year that they ever had in the classroom. And so for me, it's really looking at conversations with those folks and seeing how are they possibly able to do what they're doing and still be so happy, so fulfilled, so calm, so balanced. And so I want to grow into that person that no matter what my circumstances are. And look, and I'm going to tell you, man,
it's hard.
In West Philly, my last handful of years there, 6 principals in 3 years. That was a lot to handle. We lost 6 boys to gun violence in a 12-month period. And I'm not saying that that's something you can just get better at dealing with. But it did cause me to really get a good therapist, a full-time good therapist. and that helped me to grow in all facets of my life, right? It helped me to really count on the people and realize how much I needed the people that I taught with. And it really caused me to call on those relationships with students that I had that were no longer even in my classroom, that I had grown up and stuff like that. I needed advice, and I needed insight from folks that were no longer even just around me all the time. And so I know that I could not make my school better, right? My school, it was not getting better, but I'm so much better now that if I went into a school that even that had issues still, I just know that I can show up and do a great job because I've grown as a person. And so that is what I would continue to grow you. And things will always get better for you, right? They might not get better for everyone. They might not get better.
No, they get better for you, and then you know
education.
how to handle them better.
Yeah.
Like when you said if you had to go into a very difficult school again, it's like you would just know how to handle them better. Like you wouldn't be worn down as quickly.
Yes.
With it. All right. Ricardo is up next asking, hi, Reynolds. I'm getting married this summer and returning from my honeymoon 2 days before conference days. What advice would you have to not be overwhelmed on the return back to school?
So first of all, congratulations.
Yes.
I love being married. It's the best. It's the best.
It is.
It's hard work, but it is 100% worth it, and is not something I have ever regret. Maybe one time I regretted it, but most of the time, no, I'm just playing. And so it is really being mindful. You don't get your honeymoon back. Just trying to be as present as you possibly can. And when I come back for conferences, I think here's how I look at conferences in the beginning of the year and back to school nights. Is all I want parents to walk away with is that I care, I'm excited to be there, and that I only want their kid to succeed. I will do just about anything to help their child succeed. And so, especially if a kid is a willing participant, right? If they're dragging their feet, there's like not a whole lot I can do until you actually want to like get up and move with me. But if you show me that you're even remotely interested, if there's a spark there, I am going to try to pour gasoline on that thing. And so I know that's not how fires work. You don't just pour gasoline on sparks, but I don't, that's my extent of fire knowledge. So showing up and just knowing that, take all that excitement that you're feeling from like just getting married, from coming back from your honeymoon and stuff like that, and just let it just explode, man. And show folks that you are excited. I have never been to a back to school night where I've heard a teacher do that, where I've heard a teacher say, I just want you to know that before we even get started, I love what I do. And I'm so thrilled that your kid is here because I want to have the best year ever.
I've never been to a conference that a teacher said that ever for either one of my kids.
Yeah. And even if it's,
I wish they would.
And that's not overselling, right? Like to say that this is going to be the best year ever, it can not reach even where you want it to go, but this is your mission. This is your goal. This is what you're trying to do. And parents just feel better about it. I know this because they tell me, they're like, oh my gosh, this is like so great. I'm so glad my kid is in your class. And then
because every parent just wants their kid to be loved for and cared for, like when they're away from them, right? Like at least that's what I do.
That's what I would go in with. Take that excitement from your honeymoon and just keep it rolling right into the classroom.
Okay, sorry, I'm looking for another question.
You take your time. Would you like me to sing a song right now?
No, absolutely not.
Did I ever tell you that I really believe
got
that
one. Ready? Oh, thanks, John.
You knew where I was going with that,
I know. What advice would you want to give new teachers who will be entering their first year in the classroom? I feel like you might have already hit on this a little bit.
I did, but there's a lot. There's so much stuff I feel like we could do a workshop for just new teachers. That might actually be a thing. If that's interesting to you, let us know.
There are a lot of first year teachers in here in the comments.
Yeah, I feel like we could do something for them. Maybe we will. Let's talk about that after the show. because I don't want to say I'm going to do it.
Oh, I know.
Advice I would give first year teachers is I'm going to say two things. One, there will be, and this is part of this video that's coming out this week. So I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert. There are people that are going to tell you to not go so hard, to not work so hard, to not do so much. They're going to almost have you conserve your energy. And I'm going to tell you that's terrible advice. You should go as hard as possible. You should show up and be as excited as you want every day and have the biggest, craziest lessons and do all the wild stuff. And if that means, like, I mean, there have been times, and I'm not saying this is sane, right? I know that this is ridiculous. There have been times when we have been at my school till 4 o'clock in the morning working on stuff because I love it, right? And so use that, right? That there will be times when that's not there. Use it. It will not bite you in the butt later if you do that. The other thing is not planning for the worst ever, but having a pain plan for when things don't go well, for when a day is difficult. You don't want to figure out where the first aid kit is or try and put together a first aid kit after you get hurt, right? You want to be able to know where the stuff is. Know who the friend is that you're going to call. Know where the places you're going to go after school. Know what fills you back up. What gives you joy. What makes you feel calmer. What makes you feel happier. What makes you work through things. And have that plan ready for if something should happen, right? Horrible conversation with a student. A parent comes in aggravated with you. You're overwhelmed with the amount of work that you have to do. They change your class right before. They change your classroom the day before school starts. Anything that happens like that, know who you're just going to go to, who you're going to talk to. I'd say, just to give you an example, for me, some of that is my wife, but I've learned in the last few years that, like, we are not always the people for one another to talk to. And so it's having a friend, a place. For me, exercise has been huge. Meditating in the last several years, I meditate every single day. Praying is a huge thing for me. That, like, I go into prayer, I go into meditation, I go into the gym, and I feel better when I'm done. And so that, I know for me, and I'll tell you what, it's the last thing you want to do. Last thing you want to do is go lift weights or go run or swim when you're aggravated. But I know that the biochemistry, the thing that are going to happen neurologically,
Yeah.
it works. It is actually going to work. So I make myself do it anyway. And that really helps.
Yes, I agree. It's never fun.
No. And wine only goes so far.
Yeah, that's not a good answer.
You got one more?
All right. John Fox asking, how much of your lifetime food choices, etc., is spent on intentional work and long-term benefit as opposed to just for pure momentary fun? 80%, 20%, struggling to find the balance.
So, gosh, this is a great question, man.
Think of yourself as a school teacher because you're not
time,
currently.
Food choices, etc. Spend
changes.
So you've heard me say this before, John, that discipline equals freedom. So most of what I do is wildly intentional. I have figured out what works for me. So I eat the same thing for breakfast every day, especially when I was in the classroom. Ate the same thing for breakfast or drank the same disgusting green juice every day for breakfast. Had the same exact lunch. Had the same snack. Hung with the same people during first period. So in my last year of school, it was in Miss Miller's art room in the beginning of the day with a core good group of people I was going to start my day with. It was having that important hour of getting my mind ready before school started with exercise, with meditation, with prayer, with gratitude. It was staying away from certain spaces in the school because I didn't want to interact with that kind of teacher energy, and making sure that I was aligned with other things. It was treat yourself to a cup of coffee every single day. That was all intentional. Now, I will say, with all that intentionality, that opened up moments where I could just do things that were silly or fun. I would even schedule that sometimes where I would say, yo, listen, after sixth period today, which is always the hardest period because it's like right after lunch. If I had a prep, what can I go do that's silly or funny or weird in the hallway? So I'd walk around, put googly eyes on stuff. I would tease kids that were in the hallway for different things and like just kind of have fun with them. I would just do all like weird stuff that would just made me happy and brought joy to those around me. And then that was my release after doing that. So it's every Wednesday for a long time I was doing like hanging out with friends. Every Friday is date night. So that helps me to make sure I'm meeting the needs, but then I can also like, then if I just want to have fun, I just know that I can just do it whenever I want to, or I can have fun in the midst of those things as well. But yeah, so it's practice, but for me, it's getting things on the calendar first that are going to be beneficial to me. So I make sure I'm meeting my needs. Yeah. And then that, gosh, I could talk about all aspects of that for a long time.
Yeah. I just want to piggyback off of what you said. I do think that like the reason CJ makes everything so like systematic is to be able to, you have to make those decisions or they'll fatigue you, right? Like you said that, like they fatigue you. So it's like, just make it routine. So he's incredibly, when he was in the classroom, he was incredibly routined. And you're still like that at home. Like our breakfast is the same. Like everything is,
when we go to the gym, what we do at the gym. We
try to be really, really routine and scheduled. So like it kind of like, you don't have to make those decisions and that has more space for fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Can we take a couple more?
Yeah.
All right.
We can.
I hate leaving all these questions. It hurts my heart. Heather is saying, in England, anchor charts don't seem to be used as much as in American schools. I think they would benefit my students. What are your thoughts and experiences of them?
I don't use anchor charts because I don't always like the public acknowledgement of someone's success or failures.
Well, why does that have to be an anchor chart? Anchor chart is just a big giant.
I'm thinking the wrong thing.
It's like those big giant Post-it notes, like there's the paper things.
Oh,
that's an anchor chart.
So I'll say this, right, Heather?
Clearly, he doesn't like to use them for behavioral stuff.
So I don't, but I'm not against that, right? Well, I was going to get into like some kids it works for, right? So I just don't always think that all things work for all kids. So, but I will do something if it benefits the majority of my students, and then I will tweak things for those that it doesn't work for. I would say this, even if something's not popular, but it feels right to you, and even more so, it feels right to your students, it's worth an experiment. So I do all kinds of stuff in my classroom that I know no other teachers do, but I know it works for my students. So like when I talked about doing points for grades, I did it as an experiment. I saw that it made so much more sense to my students because they saw every single assignment as total points. So the test is worth more because it's 50 points, right? As opposed to your journal entry that was worth 3 points. And so you can do a lot of journal entries, but that test is going to be the thing that's really, really, really going to like have a huge and deep effect on your grade. So I would say experiment with it. Talk to your students about it. See what they think about it. A lot of the decisions that I make in my classroom, I want my students' feedback because I want to know, is this helping you to find success? And if you think something is going to help your students find success, I say just do it. Even if it's unpopular, but because who's going to argue with student success, right? And if it brings you, because student success is, so I'll leave it at that. That's how I think that I would look at that.
All right. Next one. I think this is our last one, maybe. Carl is saying, one time you spoke in a video.
I'm just looking at that profile picture. I like it. Anyway, go ahead.
Pretty. You spoke in one video about doing stuff for learners' birthdays. Did you do a half birthday for those birthdays that fell during breaks?
So you could. I think one of the things that sucks is like kids that have summer birthdays, they all like they do like a birthday for everybody, like right at the end of the year. So
our school district for the kids they don't do that. Everybody gets still, if you're in the summer, say they have like 3 students, they each get their day.
All right.
Still.
But I never
And
thought
I like
about
that.
doing half birthdays. That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
It's like halfway to your birthday.
Yeah.
So if your birthday's
That's
in
kind of funny.
July, it's
Right.
like, let's bust it out in December.
That's kind of funny and fun.
And quirky.
Yeah,
I think that's
weird.
a fun idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. So
I say go
absolutely.
with
I'll tell you what, when I first started teaching, and I had no money to be able to do this either, and this was a huge expense even at that time, I would buy greeting cards from the dollar store at that time, and I would get the worst ones. Like it was like, let me find the tackiest one, or stuff that had nothing to do with it. Would be like happy 86th birthday, right? Just something absurd. And I would give that to a kid, and I would write happy birthday and write a little note in there and give them a pencil. And you would have thought I just handed them the world. Some kids, that is so, remember that?
Yeah.
It was so impactful to just see that someone remembered, someone thought of you, someone.
Your teacher at that. Like it's just
it's like, and walking into my room, I go to shake their hand, and I go, hey, I just wanted to say happy birthday to you. And I would give that to them, and they would just, it meant the world to students. And this is high school kids. And so I think, and from there, I've grown that practice, especially for like kids that I was really close to. I'd have like little birthdays for them, or we would like get a baked good, or at least buy them some donuts or something like that. Like it was a bigger acknowledgement of that. But I think celebrating birthdays, if you have the capacity, is absolutely important and beneficial, but it's making it as easy as possible for you. So I would buy a whole bunch of cards. They'd just be in my desk. I'd look at my schedule the week before, see if anybody had a birthday coming up, write them a card, get a pencil, attach it with like a little ribbon, and give it to them on their birthday. And that was a huge hit every single time.
Miss Gonzalez says her son's birthday is really close, like right after Christmas, right in the New Year. So they would celebrate his birthday on the half.
Yeah, that's such a great
right?
idea.
She's right. Nobody wants to come to another party like after Christmas. You're tired, done.
I wish I'd known that. And
I know.
That's my mom's birthday was on Christmas, and she was like, I got like screwed every year.
Yeah. Here's a gift. It's for your birthday and for Christmas. It's like, yo, bro, you jipping me.
Just cheap.
All right, look, we're gonna do one more because my buddy Ruth is on here, and she is joining us. She doesn't always pop in, so hey, Ruth.
What's up, Ruth?
She's asking any advice on a return to the classroom after 3 years virtual. I am still looking for virtual teacher jobs, but until then, I'm going back for the next school year. Not sure if I can handle it anymore. Love you both, by the way. Thanks.
So we love you too, Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my face was looking like that because I thought your school was virtual for like they just like never came back from the pandemic. They're like,
no, I think Ruth is preferring the virtual classroom nowadays. Fine.
You know, I think here's the thing, Ruth. There are a whole bunch of things that I'm gonna say it like this. Sometimes people in education can be the worst supporters for what's best for us. Mm-hmm. And so if you feel like there is a particular type of education, a particular grade, a particular population of students, a particular way that you find that is your strength in teaching, then you should do that. Because if that is going to be where you're going to be able to do your best work, that is something we have to look at as well. And so if you find that teaching virtually, or even if it's not like 12 months of the year, 10 months of the year teaching to the same students, but you find that tutoring is your best work, right? Like, so you're virtually tutoring students through certain things. And that's where you're going to be able to kind of like be in your flow and do your best work, then you should do that. That's part of it. If I felt like I had to go back to teaching, if it was a monetary thing, or if I just, whatever the reason is, I think it's figuring out ways to make the best of it. And I'll tell you this, it goes back to that piece of like, it's the growing you. It's the you, I think teachers, and I'm not saying this about you, but I know that in the past I've done this where I blamed kids, and I knew that what I needed to do was turn the finger around and figure out how I was going to do better, how I was going to get better at this. And even if that was just better at managing myself, my emotions, my feelings, my outbursts, my anger, my disappointment, because teaching will bring a lot of that to you, I needed to find a way that I was in control of my joy, that students were not in control of my joy anymore, that my principal I was not a puppet and they could decide how I was going to feel on any given day, that I was more in control of that. Now, I'm not by any means like perfect at that. I'm not like a Jedi of joy, which is actually a great name for a band, but that is something that I would seriously consider. And, whether that is looking into therapy, looking into books, looking into groups, and kind of trying to grow you if you feel like if you are kind of more on the end of like being forced into doing something that is not your jam, how am I going to grow me so I can not just survive this, but thrive through this?
I also think if you're not staying there, like just try not to sweat it. Right, as much as you can. I mean, that's easier said than done. But I think
even when I knew I wasn't coming back to school, I still got really mad.
Oh, all right.
So,
but maybe that advice doesn't really work.
But everyone's different, right? So Ruth might not.
Because to me that works. Like, right? I know that like if I'm trying to get a job in a different environment that you are better suited for, or I think she said it's monetary also was potentially the reason. But like if you're looking for a different job that suits your needs better, then you don't have to worry about all the like politics and stress or whatever is happening in the classroom because you're not going to be there that long either. Yeah. That's my only thought.
Cool. Are we good?
We can.
Hour and 12 in. Well, look, here's the thing. This is the beginning of all of this for us, right? So we are back. We'll be back next Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I realize that not that time works for everyone, but there's also, this gets turned into a podcast, right? It will drop as a podcast tomorrow morning if you want to contact with it there. If you have more questions or you need someone to talk to, our Facebook group is a really great place to go to that. You can also sign up for mentoring on our website. So if you need that one-to-one, where I will personally do a phone call with you and we can talk through whatever it is that you have going on, I'm more than happy to go stick to life, stick to school, stick to whatever you have going on. And then we do have programs. We have a back to school boot camp coming up that is going to, I hope it's going to be so much better. Our goal is than even last year's was. And I think last year's was a wild success.
It was.
And it's going to be longer. Last year was 2 days. We're looking at 4 days right now to be able to really be able to pour into people. And there's a couple of cool things that are going around with that too, but I'm not going to talk about it because I will get myself in trouble again. So that's it, gang. We hope that you have a really great rest of your week, and we will see you back next week. Both of us.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'll be here again.
That means we have to keep fixing our hair every day, but we could have just bathing suits on right now.
I know. Look, I really could have pajamas on the bottom. I just need a shirt.
I know. The pajamas make you feel lazy, though.
Yeah, I don't really
know what I mean? Pajamas. So cool. Ready?
Oh, I do that.
You gotta hit the music.
Oh, you got it.
You're the DJ now.
But I never did this.
You go like this. All right, everybody. See you next week. Peace.